Hey y'all, welcome back to another video.
You in the past, I'm in the future. You mad that they don't salute you. I need a bag.
Thank you so much for clicking on this video. If you're new here, my name is Keela Trishawn and I make videos on lifestyle, insurance, and mental health. I also do vlogs, day in the life in the insurance industry, day in the life with a small child, all the things. That interests you, definitely go on ahead and click that subscribe button below. Turn on your notifications so you don't miss anything from me. And if you're returning, thank you so much for coming back and thank you for your support. Okay, so today I'm doing kind of a spin-off video. A couple weeks ago, I posted a video about 5 things that you didn't know about your homeowner's policy, and I'm gonna do the same type of video, but for auto insurance. So if you are interested and have some questions about your auto policy or just wanna kind of be more informed, definitely go on ahead and stay tuned. Okay, so before I jump into this video, I wanted to just kind of give you a little bit of background about me if you don't know already. I work in the homeowners department right now as a field adjuster, but when I started my insurance career, I was in auto. I specifically handled total loss claims. So there would be an adjuster that handled the vehicle during repairs, and once that vehicle was deemed a total loss, it was transferred over to my department and me or one of my colleagues would take over. With that being said, I learned a lot just in the couple years that I had worked there, and what I see across the board is people just simply don't understand their policy. So jumping right in, the first item or first thing that you may or may not know about your auto insurance policy is that rental coverage is not automatically included on your auto policy. Now, this is very important, especially in a place where there's a lot of cars. I live in Southern California, specifically in the Los Angeles area. And back when I started working in insurance claims, Uber and Lyft were, they were a thing, but they weren't as popular as they are now. And so really your only forms of transportation would be to either use an alternative vehicle, whether that be borrowing a vehicle from a family member or, using a spare car, the bus, or like a taxi, I guess, but taxis are typically like pretty expensive. So those are your only options. So not having access to a vehicle while your vehicle is in the repair shop or totaled can be detrimental, especially if you have a lot of people that you have to transfer in the morning, you use that as your way to get to work, all that stuff. So rental coverage is something that I always advocate for because it's only a few extra dollars per month to add on to your policy. Really, the person who is selling you the policy should be letting you know that, for an additional fee, you can get rental coverage and whatever other add-ons are being offered, but it's not automatically there. So it's something that if you're looking into getting new auto insurance, you want to ask about it, because the worst thing is to need it and not have it, especially just for a few more dollars a month. Okay, so the second thing that you may or may not know about your auto insurance is that full coverage doesn't necessarily mean full coverage. Now, it's tough because a lot of times if you are leasing or purchasing a vehicle, the dealership is going to require that you get full coverage on your car because if anything happens, they want to make sure that they are paid out. Full coverage just basically means comprehensive coverage, which is anything other than collision. So like if something falls on your vehicle, that would fall, like a falling object that damaged your car, that would fall under comprehensive. Collision, obviously, if there's contact with two or more vehicles, and then liability coverage is the coverage for the other person's car. So if you're responsible for an accident, your liability coverage will kick in and take care of the damage to that person's car or property up to your policy limits. So that is essentially what full coverage is. It, again, doesn't include rental, something that you would have to get added on, doesn't include gap coverage or any other, I guess what you would call like endorsements. Those are like pretty much add-ons to like the basic insurance policy. So when we say full coverage, that's usually what we're talking about, but you definitely want to read your policy. You're usually given a copy of the policy at the very beginning. If you have questions on what may or may not be covered, there is a section on your policy called exclusions. Those are things that aren't covered under any circumstances. And then typically there's another section that explains to you what is all covered under both comprehensive and collision. My recommendation though is that if you have specific questions, because the policy is typically written pretty gray because every situation is different and there are different circumstances and nuances to every claim. So I'd recommend if you have a specific situation that you are interested in to see if there is actual coverage for it, reach out to your insurance company so they can put you in touch with an agent or even an adjuster and they can better explain those coverages to you based on your situation. All right, so the third item that I wanted to discuss in this video is gap coverage. Gap coverage is something, as a total loss adjuster, there is no way that I am going to purchase a vehicle ever without getting gap coverage. So just to kind of give you a quick overview of what that is, if you don't know, it essentially covers the gap. So if your vehicle becomes a total loss, your insurance policy only owes you for market value of the car, okay? That could be different than what you actually owe for the vehicle, and that's where people get mixed up. So an easy example is the market value for your car at the time of the accident might be $10,000, but you still owe $15,000 for the car, which means that there is a gap of $5,000. So I used to get asked all the time if you'd still be responsible for that gap in coverage even though you don't have the vehicle, and the answer is yes. At the end of the day, you still owe what you signed for with the dealership, whether or not you have the vehicle. Gap coverage comes in a situation like this and covers that gap. So if we're in a situation where the market value is not as much as what you owe, then you can open up a gap claim and they will come in and take care of that difference. So that way you're scot-free. The vehicle's paid off and you're free to move on. Situations that I've seen is where someone denied gap coverage, or maybe they were never offered gap coverage, and then they end up in a situation where they still have to continue to make payments on a vehicle that they no longer can drive. And it's really sad, but I mean, it really is just kind of how it goes. Now, I've had people in the past even tell me like, oh, I'm not going to continue to pay on this. I'm not going to pay for this car that I don't have. And it's like, you can do that, but it's going to affect your credit tremendously. So to err on the side of caution, even if you're not offered gap coverage by your agent or by, sometimes a dealership will sell it, but if you're not offered this coverage, I would ask about it, because it's also something that is usually not that expensive, especially in relation to the car. It's additional money, but it's not that expensive, and it'll really save you potentially thousands of dollars if you have an unfortunate situation as a total loss. Okay, so the fourth item that I wanted to discuss is aftermarket items. These aren't always covered on the policy. When you get an insurance policy and you sign up for everything, typically there is an inspection done of your vehicle depending on how new it is. A lot of things can be done remote, but then sometimes they'll send out someone to do an inspection of the car to see what's included on it, so you're charged the proper premium. So if you go and get aftermarket rims or upgrade your sound system, get tint and things like that, those things aren't always covered. You usually would want to reach out to your agent to let them know, hey, I have these additional items, so your premium can be adjusted. The issue with not letting your agent know or not letting the insurance company know is that if something happens to your car or those items are damaged, the insurance company didn't know about it, so technically they don't have to pay you for it. They owe you for whatever was on the car at the time that you signed up for your insurance. And that's kind of similar with homeowners insurance. In certain cases, you really want to, like whatever insurance it is, you really want to reach out to your insurance company to let them know, hey, I added these upgrades and I did these things to the vehicle, just to make sure that you have enough coverage in the event of something unfortunate happening. Okay, so the last thing that I wanted to discuss in this video regarding things that you may or may not know about your insurance policy is that your credit score can actually affect your premium costs. Now, this was something that was actually news to me. I did not realize that your credit score can affect those costs, but it can. I've never worked in underwriting, but I do know that they use something called an insurance score, and your credit history is a part of that score. And basically what they want to do is determine how much of a risk you are. So how likely is it that you would be in an accident? And they use criteria like where you live, whether your car is parked on the street or in a garage, miles you drive per year. I know you guys have filled out those applications online or even in person where they're asking all these questions. All that stuff helps to determine how big of a risk you are on the road. And my assumption on this is not like a fact, but then just when people look at your credit history, a lot of times they want to see how reliable you are. They want to see how responsible you are. And I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to say that people that have lower credit scores are not as responsible, because I know that like your credit score can be contingent on a lot of things. Like you might be going through hard times, so you've missed some bills and that affects your score, all that stuff. So I'm not saying that, but just on paper, that score is looked at as a way to see how reliable you are and how much of a risk you are. So it would behoove you, if you're able to control it, make sure that you're paying your bills on time, make sure that If there are any items on your credit report that need to be disputed that, aren't true, make sure that you reach out and discuss those. And if you are struggling, make sure that you reach out to the vendors or the companies that you're struggling to pay on time. Reach out to them and set up a payment plan, or just work out something so it won't affect you in other areas of your life. Everybody needs a vehicle. It is a requirement for you to have insurance, and so the last thing you want to do is have your credit score being a hater and messing up your fees. All right, you guys, so that is all that I have for you today. Again, I just want to make sure that you guys are as informed as possible, especially me being an adjuster and having kind of an inside look at all of these things. I don't know everything, but I've been doing it for 10 years, so I've seen a lot, I can interpret a lot, and a lot of things that did not make sense to me prior to becoming an adjuster make so much more sense now that I know how everything works. If there is anything in this video that you need clarification on, please feel free to leave me a comment below. I'm really good at responding to comments, and so I typically will get back to you within a day or two at most, just depending on how busy I am. And let me know if there's any other type of video that you would want to see in regards to auto or even homeowners. I am open to all ideas. If you enjoyed this video and you learned something, definitely go on ahead and give me a thumbs up. Really helps with the YouTube algorithm. If you made it this far and have not subscribed, definitely go on ahead and click that subscribe button. Turn on your notifications so you don't miss anything from me. That being said, you guys have an amazing day, and I'll see you next time.
You mad, they don't salute you. I need a bag, size is super. They turned your bag, it's like I never